So what a lot of people will often find when they're using the sidearm for the first time, especially the sidearm club, is they're a little bit concerned when they're working with younger players, when parents are throwing the ball and it's quite high up here and the release points are quite high, and often it can create a little bit of indifferent bounce, and that can be quite intimidating for some young players. So a bit of advice that I've learnt from practicing over the years is actually about going down on one knee when you throw, and that way all you're doing when you do that is you're just getting the angle to get a little bit more realistic for what the kids would normally face. Okay, so slightly different technique for this one as well, so you haven't got the room to go right back, so it also becomes slightly more pushed out the front. So I'll show you now. There's slightly lesser grip than the elite version, but what that allows for is it allows for me to work on a lot more variations with players. It allows for me to kind of work on that initial ball release out of the sidearm. So I'm looking to try and create alignment at the crease, so make sure I'm getting side on here, just 'cause I've got a little bit more control over my areas. And obviously when you're trying to throw, if I get front on, I find it's going to come around to the leg side. So really basically just start off by trying to get as side on as possible and focusing on, as you bring the sidearm back, making sure you control the ball out of the hand and not trying to throw the ball too fast, because that's when you might lose your action. So really simply just coming to stand on the crease here, I line myself up with the stumps. Here, just getting nice and side on, nice and simple. Then just trying to go through my action there. Nice and simple for the batter at the other end. Again, just taking my time, getting side on in my position here. So what I think is really important when you're throwing off this distance is not to forget about the front arm. So make sure, as if you were bowling, you get your front arm reaching right out and just pulling you through as a normal throwing action. So again, I'm going to focus this next one really on where my front arm is to make sure my action's nice and strong. A very simple development from this, from a standing start, is to then develop into a bit of a follow through, just a little bit more natural, so you can almost finish off your throwing action. So if you imagine when you're bowling, you wouldn't just kind of bowl and then stop, you'd have a little bit of follow through. So now I'm just going to do a tiny little bit of follow through just to create a little bit more rhythm. So sometimes when I find myself throwing from this position, I often find that I can lose my wrist a little bit. And what it does, it creates a little bit of natural variation to swing away. So what I want to try and focus on when I'm just working on rhythm stuff with players, and you guys are working together and you're not looking too much at trying to swing the ball, is make sure as you get side on that you don't lose your wrist in that way, and keeping that wrist nice and strong. Another thing you could do, if you're finding that the ball's swinging a bit, you can always change it, the grip in the sidearm. Obviously I've got the seam up at the moment, so it is more likely to swing. But if you move it to a cross seam ball, it's less likely to do anything off the seam. So if I keep my action nice and repeatable, I can slowly add pace from this position. Sure.